Welcome to the home of the FOD Family Support Group. My name is Deb Lee Gould. My husband Dan and I initially co-founded this group as a support for families living with the rare metabolic disorder called MCAD, a disorder that is often misdiagnosed as SIDS or Rise syndrome. In this first video, I'd like to share how my family got started in all of this the hard way back in 1985 and what our group offers families living with a fatty oxidation disorder. Our journey began in 1983 when Dan and I were blessed with our first child. I had gone into labor 3 weeks early because of placenta previa, and the doctor said, "No, this baby won't be born for a few days, so go on your trip." Well, Dan went on his trip, and sure enough, Kristen was born on October 6, 1983. She was 6 pounds, 12 3/4 ounces, a beautiful baby. We were both so ecstatic to have a daughter. She was growing and developing well, and then when she was 10 months old, we moved back to the University of Illinois when Dan took a sports psychology position. We were very excited to get back to Champaign since we both graduated from there, and I consider it home. Then, on the 21st of July, 1985, our lives were changed forever. Dan was off at a conference, and Kristen, then 21 months old, and I were having fun in the sprinkler the night of July 20th. She hadn't eaten much for dinner and was pretty tired, so I put her to bed at 8 that night. She woke up many times during the night, so I gave her some water, and she slept on and off until 6 a.m. At that time, I walked into her room. She immediately projectile vomited. Being a Sunday, the doctor's office was closed, but they had a nurse advisory phone service, so I called and spoke with the RN. She said, let her stomach rest, try to give some water, and let her sleep. To make a long story short, by the third time I called, and the RN had consulted with the on-call ped by then, she said the flu was going around and to just let her sleep. Well, I called again at 4 o'clock because I was concerned about dehydration, since she had been sleeping, what we thought was sleeping, which most likely was a coma, since 11 a.m., and at that moment I was on the phone with the nurse. Kristen stopped breathing. The nurse called 911 for me, and I immediately got her down on the floor to begin CPR, and I called for Dan. He had gotten home from his trip, so he ran down the stairs to help. He then took over the breathing, and I did the chest compressions. All I can remember is looking down at her toes and them turning blue. We got a slight pulse going, but barely. Dan took over, and I ran out the door because the paramedics were taking forever. I ran to a neighbor's house because he was a university physician and I thought he could help, but he wasn't home, so I ran back to our house to help Dan. Then a police officer arrived, and this is what really got us going. He accusingly said, "What's going on here?" as if we were doing something wrong. Dan and I couldn't believe what we had just heard and how it was said. The paramedics finally arrived, and we were taken by ambulance to the ER. They asked if she had gotten into any meds, and I explained that I had been on the phone all day with the advisory nurses and that she hadn't been sick at all before all of this started. The doctors had no clue what was wrong, and after 2 hours of trying to bring her back, they came out and told us there was nothing that they could do for her. And after talking things over, Dan and I told them to turn off the machines. So at 6:05 p.m., Sunday, July 21st, 1985, our world was turned upside down. We were so devastated, beyond devastation, yet at the same time we wanted to have an autopsy, and because of what they found, a fatty liver and heart, high ammonia level, and mild brain swelling, they called it Rise syndrome. And from the very beginning, we didn't believe that at all. For one, in our opinion, it's just an observation and not a true cause of her death. It's a syndrome, like SIDS. And two, she didn't have the chickenpox or aspirin, which are often associated with Rise syndrome. So for several months, I spent hours in the medical library poring over journals trying to find answers. In that time, Dan and I decided to continue our family. And when I was 5 months pregnant, we received an article from my sister's pediatrician about this rare metabolic disorder that presents in a similar way and is often triggered by fasting, such as an overnight sleep, which is what happened with Kristen. She hadn't eaten well that night and then didn't eat anything until the next morning, but kept throwing it up. So if she had this disorder, she had become toxic by not being able to break down fatty acids for energy. And when her body was out of carbs, all her blood and liver levels rose so high that she couldn't survive. She didn't vomit because of the flu. It was because she was out of fuel. She had no carbs left to burn as energy. We took this information to our family doctors, and they kept telling us, no, it was Rye syndrome. It couldn't be this MCAD. That's a rare disorder. Well, we insisted on this next baby being tested, and when Kevin was born in 1986, we sent specimens to Dr. Charles Rowe. He was one of the developers of the new expanded newborn screen test that is used today, and the author of that article. And within 24 hours, we received that call. Kevin had MCAD. He was the youngest infant at the time diagnosed with MCAD using the newly developed screening test. Fortunately, the medical examiner had saved some frozen liver tissue from our daughter's autopsy, and Dr. Rowe determined she also had MCAD. She was the first verified postmortem tissue diagnosis for MCAD ever. We went on to have another son, Brian, and he is a carrier and does not present with symptoms. Although we are now learning that many of our carriers of the various FODs do experience some symptoms despite not having the actual FOD. Doctors don't know why, but they do. Also, some moms that are carrying an affected baby can sometimes experience fatty liver of pregnancy or the HELP syndrome, so OBGYNs should be aware of that as well. Kevin has done extremely well because he was diagnosed and treated from birth. Although we've had experiences with medical professionals not following the protocol, which is another whole story. While learning to live with Kevin's MCAD, Dan and I felt like we were the only ones out there. So we worked with Dr. Rowe and contacted families in his lab that they had diagnosed. And in February of '91, we started the MCAD Family Support Group with 10 families. Then in '95, we expanded to include all of the FODs and became the FOD Family Support Group. Now we have a few thousand families around the world and several hundred professionals in our group. So where are we today? With many grassroots organizations pushing for expanded newborn screening, states are now mandated to screen for at least 21 disorders, and some states screen for 50 plus. Not all states do the comprehensive screening. The same with some countries. Some are just screening for MCAD. So let's hope all get on board with the comprehensive screening as soon as they can. We are an international group that actively networks with FOD families in the U.S. and Canada, as well as Australia, the UK, India, South Korea, and many other countries. We provide emotional support and practical information about living with these disorders. We not only have a very extensive website, we offer an email list of over 600 plus families for networking. We have a small Facebook group as well. We have a newsletter online published twice a year, and I try to call every new family, no matter where they live in the world, to welcome them to our group and answer whatever questions I might be able to. I also offer grief support by phone or email for anyone living with the death of a child or loved one. We offer a national metabolic conference every 2 years in conjunction with the Organic Acidemia Association. It's a great way to hear some of our experts on the various FODs and to network with other families. Our next conference will be in the summer of 2010, and we're still open to universities, hospitals, or clinics that are willing to be our host. We try to find a location that would be easy to get to, has some family attractions, since many try to make a vacation out of the trip as well as attending the conference, and a host that can help us with funding. Although all of our services are free of charge, family and professional donations are definitely appreciated. You can also purchase FOD awareness items on our homepage that help support our worldwide efforts. Even though we began in '91, we just recently became a nonprofit in January of '07. The main reason was so we could raise funds for the clinical training of new doctors and for FOD research. Families also help out by holding their own fundraisers, and they create awareness and educate about FODs by talking to medical students and sharing their stories. I can't stress enough that besides making sure every baby is screened for FODs and many other disorders, our greatest challenge right now is training new clinicians. We don't have enough across the country and world that really know FODs. And we need more of our doctors that will see adults with FODs, since many metabolic specialists are trained specifically for children. Children grow into adults and need ongoing long-term consultation and care. So if you're a medical student or a physician or dietitian that would like a challenge and is passionate about helping families, please look into further metabolic training. You can find some of our clinicians on our medical information page on the website. I will stop for now, and in my next video I'll discuss how FODs present and how they are diagnosed and treated. So please check our website at fodsupport.org, send me an email or give me a call if you'd like to talk. And know that we are here for you, you are not alone, and as our logo states, we are all in this together. Thank you for listening.